Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And the big news that's just broke out that Glenn Jacobs, aka Kane, will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame for 2021. And in my honest opinion, I can't think of anyone other than The Undertaker who deserves to go into the Hall of Fame more than the Big Red Machine himself, Kane. What can you really say about Kane that hasn't been said already? He's a true legend. He's one of the greatest big men in the history of the wrestling business. He's done it all. WWF champion, World Heavyweight champion, ECW World champion, multiple time tag team champion. He's held the gold with The Undertaker as the Brothers of Destruction, X-Pac, Rob Van Dam, The Big Show, the Hurricane Helms, Daniel Bryan as Team Hell No, and of course he won the gold with Mankind as well. You name it, Kane has done it all. He's won the Intercontinental title, he's won the Hardcore title. Wow, what more can you say about Kane that hasn't been said already? He's had one of the best careers you can ever ask or hope for. And he's not just a monster inside the ring. Outside of the ring, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's very down to earth, very humble, very well spoken, and he's just criminally underrated. And all due respect to The Undertaker, who's, one of my all-time favourite wrestlers, but I always felt that Kane should have gotten more. But Kane, like I said, is one of the nicest guys. He was quite content and happy to take a back seat and let others grow into bigger stars. But Kane is no slouch. He's put on some epic performances. How can we forget the 2001 Royal Rumble where he eliminated 11 guys and lasting well over an hour? Still to this day, probably the greatest Royal Rumble performance of all time. And he's one of the greatest characters ever. I mean, if you look back at his early days, he was known as the Christmas Monster, Fake Diesel, Unabomb. He's had some terrible gimmicks, but the man that he is, Glenn Jacobs, he made all of those horrible gimmicks work. But his greatest success came as the storyline brother of The Undertaker when Paul Bearer brought him in on October 5th, 1997 as In Your House Bad Blood. And I'll never forget it. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, they were tearing the house down. They were having a great Hell in a Cell match, which was the first one, by the way. And just when it looked like The Undertaker was about to finish off Shawn Michaels, the lights went out. The whole arena went this dark red colour, this dreary organ music played, and this big explosion went off, and all you see is Paul Bearer with Kane. And I've never seen a guy that big, not since Diesel or Psycho Sid. And the way he just came in, he ripped the Hell in a Cell door off, and he just stood there face to face, eye to eye with The Undertaker. And I'll never forget Undertaker's face. Undertaker, a guy who rarely ever shows emotion, he just looked on in disbelief. We all did. And he gave The Undertaker a tombstone, costing him the Hell in a Cell match, which kicked off, in my opinion, one of the most epic rivalries in the history of not just the Attitude Era, but in wrestling. And the first match they had at WrestleMania 14 was a classic, and Kane just absolutely dominated The Undertaker. And bear in mind, it took 3 tombstones just to keep Kane down, and he just got better and better. Even when he lost the match to The Undertaker, he just became even bigger, if that was possible. And got to remember, the whole build-up to Kane coming into WWE, and then the build-up to WrestleMania 14 for the match, altogether you're looking at around 10 months of build-up and storytelling, and it's insane. And Kane hasn't just feuded with The Undertaker, he's had a great rivalry with Stone Cold, great Backlash of the Titans with The Big Show, some great athletic matches with Rob Van Dam, Shane McMahon. Kane's worked with them all, and he's been a team player as well. As I said, he was part of the Brothers of Destruction with The Undertaker. He's been part of the Corporation with Vince McMahon. which I was not a fan of, to be honest, but I'm glad that didn't last long. And he was in the Authority, where he was corporate Kane. Didn't like that either, but Glenn Jacobs being the man, he made every gimmick work. And he had a great tag team run with X-Pac, which was very entertaining, and they worked very, very well together. Team Hell No with Daniel Bryan, which I wasn't a fan of the comedic stuff, but as I said, Kane made it work. And of course, as we all remember, Kane, his whole character in the mask, and he didn't speak and used to have that voice box device. It was just crazy stuff. And what I liked about the original Kane character was he didn't talk, but when he did speak, which was usually through that device, it was scary. He just sounded like something out of a horror movie, like a robot. It was just insane stuff. And then in 2003, as we all remember, Kane unmasked, and he went through, I think, was it like maybe 8 or 9 years of competing without a mask, and he did some good stuff. Even though I prefer Kane in the mask with the long hair, he did some good stuff, but I prefer Kane in the mask personally. And his character did drop a little bit, he did start getting a bit humanised and a bit silly, but he picked himself back up again in 2010 when he won the World Heavyweight title and beat The Undertaker 3 straight pay-per-views. That was really cool, because Kane had never really beaten The Undertaker that much, only once on a Raw back in 1988. And Kane's wrestled them all: Rock, Austin, Angle, Mick Foley. He's been in the ring with all of them, and he's been in a Hell in a Cell match as well. A lot of people may not remember this, but Kane was actually in a Hell in a Cell match with Mankind in August of 1998, and great match, very violent. But what can I say, really? Well deserved, and many congratulations to Kane. And just like The Undertaker, he's always managed to keep his character fresh, always changing his look, his attire, taking it in different directions, but nothing will ever beat the original character from 1997. From 1997 to, I think, 2002, that was Kane's best years. He was just athletic, the things he was doing for a guy his size, flying off the top rope, and incredibly strong. That's one thing I really want to talk about. He was incredibly strong. The way he used to just pick up the Big Show with ease was just insane. I'll never forget, I think, was it Royal Rumble 2000? I remember he just picked up the Big Show with ease for a body slam, and I remember just hearing Kane grunting, bang, unbelievable strength. And Kane, in my opinion, all due respect to Brock Lesnar, who he's a beast in his own rights, but I don't think there was anyone more stronger in the business, except maybe Mark Henry. But Kane was just incredibly strong for his size. Many congratulations to Kane. Well deserved, and long overdue. Now the question is, who's going to induct Kane into the Hall of Fame? It's not a hard question to answer. Easy, The Undertaker, because if we didn't have The Undertaker, we may not have had Kane. And we've heard Kane say this on the WWE Network, on their documentary together. Kane had his career thanks to The Undertaker, because The Undertaker went out of his way to help him. And mega props to Mark Calloway for giving Glenn Jacobs a helping hand in his career, and they both helped each other out, but I probably would say Undertaker helped out Kane just a bit more. But well deserved. Definitely think Undertaker should be the guy to induct him. I mean, obviously, if Paul Bearer was still alive, he would have been a natural choice, but Undertaker is just as good, and it makes more sense. So that's it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What's your thoughts on Kane going into the Hall of Fame for 2021? Are you excited? Who do you think should induct him? Do you think it should be The Undertaker? Or do you think it could be Daniel Bryan who inducts Kane into the Hall of Fame? What about Vince McMahon? Do you think it could be him? You know what to do, guys. hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And once again, many congratulations to the Big Red Machine Kane, aka Glenn Jacobs. At last you finally take your rightful place into the Hall of Fame. It's well and truly deserved.